because they have the priesthood, they preside at home. So women do not have any ability to make decisions that couldn't be overruled by a man.
How blind do you have to be for you to think that men serving willingly at 6 a.m. on a Saturday at the church building, that's just default?
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
What I think is so funny is that feminism puts male virtue as the standard and says, women, you're not successful, you're not powerful, you're not anything until you reach the male standard.
And now it's time to consider the path of your feet, for crying out loud.
Welcome back to Salty Saints. My name is Hayden Holm, and tonight I am joined by a fantastic panel of guests. We've got with us Maddy Packer, we've got Tikla Fife from Women of Ward Radio, Maddy Packer's from the Shore Foundation, and then we've got Sam St. Laurent at Through the Mist. He's on YouTube. Be sure to check him out and subscribe. And the reason why we have gathered these minds tonight is because there is a big question that we get in the Discord that we have for men. dadsneedfriends.com, dadsneedfriends.com. That is, we get a lot of men who have wives who get into feminist algorithms. They get stuck in these algorithms, and then those algorithms continue to feed them more and more and more feminist ideas and more progressive LDS ideas, and then it starts creating a rift in the marriage of these men and these sisters. And so tonight we have gathered these minds to talk about this and to figure out if we can walk away with some practical tips for these husbands and wives to help mend that relationship and see if we can support truth a little bit along the way. First, we are going to start off with a video. So we have a familiar face coming back to the channel. Josie unpacks it all. We are going to help her, like a good elder's quorum, continue to unpack because there were some things that she left in the boxes.
Josie's on a vacation far away.
Hi, lovelies. We often hear in the LDS church that women don't have the priesthood because they have motherhood, but I want to talk about why motherhood isn't an adequate counterpart to the priesthood. The first one should be very obvious. There is already a male counterpart to motherhood, and that is fatherhood. So in the home, there should be a partnership of motherhood and fatherhood. But at church, there is no partnership. It is just a male-led organization. Second reason is that there is no authoritative voice for women anywhere in between home and church. Since men have the priesthood, they preside at church, but they're also told that because they have the priesthood, they preside at home. So women do not have any ability to make decisions that couldn't be overruled by a man anywhere she resides unless she works outside of the home. The third way I can mention that motherhood and priesthood are not equal is that motherhood is dependent on a variety of factors. The ability a woman has to find a partner, her fertility, her age, whether or not this couple is at a place where they can bring children into the world. Whereas any worthy male over the age of 12 can have the priesthood and perform in priesthood responsibilities for the rest of their life. This last point I'll make on how motherhood and the priesthood are not comparable is something that's not often talked about, but something I definitely recognize, and that's that motherhood and priesthood are not honored or recognized on the same level institutionally. You might disagree. You might say, we talk about how great mothers are all the time. Yes, but we're not supporting motherhood in the same way we support the priesthood. How often have you heard a male leader talk to the women of the church about honoring and sustaining the priesthood and helping their husbands fulfill their priesthood duties? Versus the other way around, how often have you heard a male leader talk to the men about honoring and sustaining motherhood and helping their wives fulfill their duties as moms? So this platitude that women don't need the priesthood because they can give birth to me is quite diminishing because it simplifies a whole complex person into one role, and a role that all women should perform. And I am not diminishing motherhood. I think it is an incredible gift and sacrifice and joy, but it does not embody all the talents, the capabilities, the potentials a person has. Now, we don't define men by just fatherhood. They get to be fathers, they get to be priesthood leaders, they get to work outside the home, but a lot of women feel guilty if they have ambitions outside of anything other than being a mother. And that is something that this narrative perpetuates. something that I'm not in alignment with personally. But that is all. Thank you.
Okay, you are welcome, Josie. And as you guys could see, there were some arguments that I feel like she did not unpack entirely, which is a little ironic because her tag name is Josie Unpacks It All, but that is okay. It seems like she may be on a vacation far away, but we are saying, come on in and talk it over, Josie. So that is why we have Tikla and Maddy. So let's start from the top and get your initial reactions. So when you hear something like this, what are your first thoughts?
My first thoughts are she doesn't understand what womanhood and motherhood are, like straight up.
What do you mean
And she's defining motherhood as the ability to, like, that you actually have children. And I would argue that motherhood is much deeper than actually having the child, and that it's like an internal part of who you are as a woman, whether or not you bear children.
There's literally no part of my womanhood that is not somehow associated with my ability to have produced children. Like there's nothing, like the things that differentiate men and women have to do with motherhood and fatherhood. And so regardless of your status of being an actual mother of children, your body is preparing for motherhood your entire life as a woman in some way or another, or hearkening back to when you did. And so it's such a defining part of who a woman is that it cannot be separated from womanhood, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt you, Maddy. Go ahead.
No, that's like 100% what I'm saying. So, yeah.
Awesome. Sam, what stood out to you?
I think she's also kind of conflating priesthood offices with priesthood authority, which was oftentimes she's kept going back and forth between them. And I don't think I'm dubious on whether or not she actually understands the difference between the two. Let alone the fact that like having the ability, like being in a priesthood office really only entitles the person to serve in a certain capacity. So it's not like the person who's in a priesthood office is somehow propped up higher than the person who is not in a priesthood office. It just makes it so that they have to do more service. It actually forces them to do more service towards others. That's essentially that's what I gather from the priesthood offices.
100%. Tikla, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Always. So I think she's right in the sense that motherhood and fatherhood are the companion roles. And priesthood is the organization of fathers. That's what priesthood is. And so priestesshood, or the female equivalent of that organization, would be the organization of mothers. And so if you're looking for where women fit in the organization of fathers, you're not going to find, where do women fit in that organization? Because it's not designed for mothers. It's designed for fathers, whether they have children or not, to be organized optimally to be able to help the human family to thrive. And especially at church, this is a place where we're organized in order to replicate the nuclear family for everyone, so that everyone has the benefit of the nuclear family, regardless of their family situation. Now, it is far more common for a individual in a less conventional family situation to be motherless than to be fatherless. And so it is highly significantly helpful to women in the world to have organizations where fathers are organized to optimally serve families. And whereas if we're going to talk about priestesshood and wonder, why isn't there more structure or more of an order to how that goes? Why aren't there hierarchies and trophies and awards for how that goes? It's because women don't organize themselves that way. When left to our own devices, we like to be equals in a circle of love and friendship and sisterhood. We don't like to prop each other up or down and decide who's the coach and who's the quarterback. And that's just not how we operate. And so you would be imposing masculine organization on a women's organization if you were to insist upon the kind of hierarchical structures that are found in priesthood in the priesthood order. And so what do we have instead? We have the Holy Order of Matrimony, or you could think of it as a matriarchal order, and where we have optimal freedom. Optimal freedom. We get to serve when and where and how we want to. When our circumstances allow, when our season calls us, when we're in a season of need, we have freedom to step back and do what we need to do to care for ourselves and our children and nurture in our communities, because the men have it covered in all of the ways that need to stay consistent. And then when we're in a season where we can take on the same kind of load as a man can, and we're feeling invincible and we're ready to just take on the world, then we're free to do that. And there's all of the structures that we need in order to get our voices heard, regardless of the season of life that we're in. Because there's a representative from the children's and women's organizations in that family council, in that ward council that happens every week, where all of the voices of those women can be heard.
Breaking up a little bit.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
It sounds like the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka. You know when he goes through Wonka vision and it's like. Oh,
that's what we want. That's what we want. Someone else talk for a minute. I think that's Riverside's way of saying you've been talking too much. Your turn is.
No, it's totally fine. I was on the edge of my seat that whole time.
Was it because
Maddy,
there was Willy Wonka vibes going?
No, I love the way that Tikla describes that between motherhood and fatherhood, because ultimately for both men and women, parenthood is the ultimate calling. And it just looks different how that's integrated into our lives in mortality, in the church, in our natural born gifts, talents, roles. But what I think is so funny, and this transcends church structure, what I think is so funny is that feminism takes the male standard. It puts male virtue as the standard and says, women, you're not successful, you're not powerful, you're not anything until you reach the male standard. And I just think that is dismissive of women.
Incredibly so. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's fantastic.
And so then women have their own standards for what it means to be successful. And then on top of that, they've now internalized these masculine expectations as well. So now they're dealing with all of it. And then you have people, these, therapist types who are saying, it's the church that's causing all this pressure. Guess what? It's not. The church is giving women the ultimate freedom to choose who they want to be and how they want to be it by not imposing all of the leadership responsibilities. So we have so much choice and so much. Now, I do think it's interesting.
So you're saying ideologies like this are creating a faux pressure. So they're manufacturing a pressure on women who believe hey, I am being oppressed because this ideology is telling me that I am being oppressed. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, and I would also say that I think some of it comes from the devaluation of the roles of mother in society as a whole. If nurturing isn't considered a virtue, then a church that does value nurturing is going to be seen as behind the times, or when in reality, that's insanely pro-women to be honoring of the nurturing role, right? And so there's some of that playing into that too.
Well, and we can't act like fatherhood and motherhood are interchangeable. There's just things that mothers offer their children that fathers don't. And there's things that fathers offer their children that mothers don't. But especially with young children, the kind of research that's come out in recent years, about infant mental health and just neuropsychology of infants, it's been insane. This is completely PhD research, non-religious, non-political. There is a significant impact on infant mental health concerning the mother's amount of nurture in their first 3 years of life.
Yeah,
it's one of the most impactful. Yeah, it's one of the most impactful times. And they literally call it nurture. They say the amount of nurture a child receives from their mother is paramount in setting them up for healthy mental health throughout the rest of their life. And I would say there's a reason amongst other factors, there's a reason we've seen a massive decline in mental health across the board over the last few generations because we have devalued that virtue of motherly nurturing and putting your children's nurturing above your own ambition.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I've seen as well. From the ages of like 0 to 3, they say that's when a child learns how to regulate their emotions, and the mother is the primary figure to teach them how to do that. They learn that through their mother, and then from then on, the father has to help them assimilate into society. So the father has to take over and say, "All right, now that you are emotionally, you have the tools to regulate yourself emotionally. Let me help you integrate into society." And so you have it's not a competition, it's collaboration. And and that's where we're seeing all of these problems is ideologies that cause a rift when they start saying, "Hey, we're not equal." It's like, yeah, no, duh. It's like, yeah, no. We're not supposed to be equal. That was by design. We're not going to be equal, but we also that's part of the plan that leads to healthier, happier children, healthier, happier families, and societies at large. When you have people serving in different equal, like they're equal in their value,
would say,
but they
say
are
we're equal,
not equal
but we're
in
not
their
the same
inputs. Yeah,
we're not the same.
Elder Renland visited our stake recently, and he referenced the asymmetry between men and women. I thought that was profound. There's an equality there, but it's not symmetrical.
right. So what did he mean by that?
Well, I think it's just that the ways that we expect, the expectations that we have for men in the church and the expectations we have for women in the church are different. And for my part, I think as a woman, I don't want more burden and more responsibility. Generally, I want more help. And I think you will find that without structure to help men know their path to helping, the women will be left with the majority of the burden. And we see this in societies and cultures that don't have a patriarchal structure of some kind. The women end up doing everything. And so, the service that the patriarchal structure gives is all in benefit of women and children, in my opinion. So that's why this video is so baffling to me, where I'm like, how blind do you have to be? How privileged was your upbringing for you to think that men serving willingly at 6 a.m. on a Saturday at the church building, or service projects taking the teens on 15-mile hikes, that's just default. That's just what men just do. But if they could just let the women take a turn every once in a while, that'd be just so great. It's like, how privileged has your life been that you think that that's normal?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but no.
That, and it's really only it's really only been within modern society where we actually have the luxury of not having to worry about where we get our food, where we're going to sleep, if there's going to be predators that come and eat us in the middle of the night. We live in a time where we don't have to worry about that stuff, where like the rest of human history, men and women needed each other in those capacities to survive. I mean, it's survival because, and it should show that even in our DNA and our biology, God designed us that way, that we need each other. And it isn't until we've reached this modern kind of like, we have all this leisure time, we have all these luxuries, we can sit back and think about these things in ways that our ancestors never could, that we forget the necessity of that male and female equal relationship that's supposed to work synergistically. That it like Tikla says, it shows kind of the privilege, it shows the ignorance, I think.
Right. I think it was Dave Burrows. I think he was the one that wrote the book. I think it was called like Why Men Hate Going to Church or something like that. And he basically said, one of the liners in there that I thought was just a hard hitting line. He said, men don't go where they're not needed. And so if you replace all of the callings of men with women, all the men are going to be like, yeah, you got it covered. I'm fine. I'm bouncing. I can go do something else. I'm not going to stay here. If you've got this all covered, I'm just going to do me. Okay. But if the women take a firm stance and say, no, I need you here, I need you to do these things because I can't, then they're going to say, all right, I guess I need to be a better person, and I guess I need to serve, and I guess that's just how men operate. Now, there's a great book. I mean, going back to like the different, how men and women are different in the hierarchy versus no hierarchy with women. A book illustrates this perfectly. It's The Sea Wolf by Jack London. Fantastic book. It's about this like privileged upper class guy. He gets on board he gets shipwrecked and picked up by this ship. And this crew is just, they're ruthless and they're mean and they're terrible. And the captain is just the apex predator. He's just the combination of brute strength and intelligence. And he runs the ship. And that's how men operate. It's just like the hierarchy descended from there in positions on the ship. And then they eventually pick up a woman, and that throws the entire hierarchy out the window, because then the person who became most threatening to the captain at that point was the upper class gentleman, because she was more attracted to him than to the captain. And so sexual selection is pretty huge. To quote like Jordan Peterson, it's quite the factor to consider. And so like it's really big. And so I mean, totally love that book. I love what you're saying. So if people are confused about how men and women are different, how they operate in structures, The Sea Wolf by Jack London. It'll teach you a lot. So I think we addressed most of that. There was one piece that I did want to get Sam's reaction to. So there was a part in there where she said, how many times have you heard men that being asked to take care of their women, to support the women? Sam, how many times have you heard that?
To support my wife?
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
I
feel like it was like my entire childhood. Like growing up, that was all I heard. It was just like, we talk about that, don't like, ever.
Well, so I'm in the teacher's quorum now. As a teacher's quorum advisor, but when I was in elders quorum, like the family was always brought up every Sunday. Like, what are we doing in the family? How can we support our wives better? How can we support our families better? Like that was like one of the main focuses for sure.
Yeah.
But, listening to her was like
us a call. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it was like talking to my little children when they're like, "You never tell him to clean his room. You only tell me to." And I'm like, "Yeah, because you're not there when I'm talking to your brother. You're only there when I'm talking to you. So of course you're hearing the message that's for you." Step into any priesthood session. It's all about helping wives and children. Give me a break. That was so silly.
Yeah, every single priesthood session included at least 1 to 3 talks that were just browbeating. Like, brethren, you're not enough. It's time to shape up. Yeah. You know, they take all the gloves off and they're like, let's do this. You know. And then for the sisters, like anytime there was a Relief Society session or anything, it's like, sisters, we are just so grateful to have you here.
Of you. You're doing so
You are just enough. I want you to know that you are enough as you are. And it's like, honestly, man. That's what made me a little salty as a kid. I was just like, hey, I'm trying.
Maddy, what were you going to say?
Maddy, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's actually something that like so exposes like the narcissism that is so heavily in the feminine world of like, we are above criticism. We are above listening to other people tell us what we should or shouldn't be doing. And then on top of that, if it's a man, it's like if a man, heaven forbid a man say, "Oh, women, this is bad to do." It's like, how dare you tell us that? I just think it's so funny that we can berate everybody else. But the minute a woman's like needs to be accountable for her actions or what she's done, it's like, they are oppressive. That is oppressive.
How dare they?
It is so annoying. Women have to, like, there's a ton women need to answer for and self-confront with this entire mess of feminism that is totally destroying our culture. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and here lies the problem.
My wife actually doesn't like the pandering. She actually doesn't like hearing when brethren get up and coddle, because she's like, it makes me feel like you're infantilizing me. Like I'm not an adult. Like I can't handle, hard news. And I'm like, that's why I married you. Like, oh, bless your heart. You are so awesome. Yeah. But Tikla, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
Oh, well, I cut you off. I was just going to say, I think herein lies the problem. We've been logicking this whole problem to death right now. And I think one of the things we run into with this is we assume that feminists are coming from a logical place. And no offense, but I don't think they are.
Ooh.
And I think it could be interesting to dig into maybe some of the things that lead to this kind of thinking and the reasons that the algorithms that validate those feelings are so just so rewarding and so yummy and delicious to somebody who's feeling things. And so that was a clumsy way of describing that. But I think especially if we're going to be talking about how to help wives, it's not going to be telling them all the reasons that they're logically incoherent. That's not going to do it. And so,
well said.
We might have to get into
as a woman who's been married for a long time. Yeah. Yeah. I've had to learn that lesson the hard way. Yeah. But no, it does make a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you're bringing this up. This is something that we saw. We actually talked about this in our last live stream that we did. There was the brother of Jared. He chimed in. He was just like, a lot of these things, they validate how women feel, but they don't get at why they feel that way. And I think that's a really great conversation to have.
Okay. So I think there's a few factors. We can't cover all of them, I'm sure. But one of them is, I think, as a woman, there's seasons of life where you feel kind of invisible through no fault of men. But by virtue of the tasks you're taking on, whether that's motherhood or kind of the more behind the scenes type of nurturing that is so important and often only detectable by women, like detail orientation that is only visible to women. And so we take it on because it's needful, because it's the right thing to do, and sometimes even what we want to do. But then we don't get a lot of visibility or accolade for what we're doing. And so you plug on day after day and you start to feel kind of invisible. And then that builds up, and then that fosters some resentment. And you start to think, okay, how come everyone else is visible and getting praised for what they're doing and nobody is noticing what I'm doing? And so I think that's one factor. Is that landing? Does that sound like something you relate to, Maddy?
Yes, 100%.
And so I think then when women are clamoring for positions of authority, it's not that they want more responsibility, more burden, more of a fatherly role in society. It's that they see, oh, those people are visible and I want to be seen. And so they're crying out for visibility, but misdiagnosing a solution to the problem. And because with that visibility will come more responsibility that you don't necessarily want. And so as a husband, I would say one of the great blessings you can give to your wife is to offer her visibility in the things that she's doing, that she wants to be doing, that she loves doing, but that are often unsung or unnoticed. And so giving her honor and visibility for the things that she's doing can go a long way in just helping her to feel valid and satisfied.
So when you say visibility, what do you mean by that?
So the sacrifice of your very body, your being, your time, your efforts in your home and to your children, even if you have a wife who is working, she's taking on this load of the social connections, of the needs of the children, of the emotional pulse of everyone around her. Some of these like little tiny details that she takes on, regardless of her role in the family, she is the heart of the home. And some of that will go unsung because it's something only women notice. And so men don't notice it to do it, let alone notice it to be able to thank her for doing it, if that makes sense.
I see what you're saying. So is it that like women that start building up that resentment, start looking at other people, start looking at visibility, perhaps they have some relationship problems that they're kind of burying down deep, and perhaps by visibility, are you suggesting like presence on the side of the husband? So maybe the husband could be a little bit more present at home, paying a little bit more attention to what his wife's doing and trying to be a little bit more proactive in helping his wife. Is that right?
Yes, or even just acknowledging what she's doing. There was actually a hilarious study that they did that showed that men who appreciate their wives for the housework that they do, their wives reported them actually completing more housework than they were actually doing. So just by appreciating what she's doing, she logs that as you helped her.
Look at that. So you could really chop down that to-do list on Saturday by just appreciating the little things.
I'm just saying.
What a hack. That's fantastic.
Life
what
hack
a life
for Salty
hack.
Saints. You're welcome.
There we go.
So something as simple as appreciating what she's doing, or getting enough information to start to understand what it is you could be appreciating about your wife, and then shouting into the skies. The other way that I think that visibility can be accomplished is through community. And this is a whole nother topic. Mm-hmm. I think women are so isolated right now, and it's so bad for us.
I feel like I've experienced this actually moving recently to where I am right now from the community we were in. Sorry. I had an amazing, super tight-knit community of other women that were my age, that had really young children. We were all kind of in that same season of life, and we could rally around one another and be each other's like social life. Because I think what you're talking about, especially when you have younger kids, like I just have a 2-year-old right now. When you have younger kids, you're kind of sometimes not part of like a community because your kids aren't in school. They're not doing sports. They're not like, they're not out doing things yet. And so you can kind of feel trapped in like your own little bubble of who else is doing this.
It's even hard to take them to restaurants. Yeah. Like you don't even go out. Like you don't go out because it's hard.
Like, yes.
Splash pad.
We love the splash
kid-friendly
pad,
places.
But you don't really eat at the splash pad. But anyway, I feel like I've kind of experienced this recently. And part of that is me trying to fix that. Part of that is me trying to reach out and find other women who maybe are in that same position. But it's hard because a lot of women do work and kids go to daycare, and that's not bad. I'm just saying in that dichotomy of like the different worlds of motherhood, it's hard to find that community sometimes where you are in the same season of life as somebody else that can understand you in that way.
And because it's so much work, and there's so much variety of how women show up in the world these days, it's so effortful in a season of life where you're already feeling pretty depleted. So then what do we have right in our pocket? We have something that feels like connection. And so it's just enough of a hit to take off the edge that pressure we feel to overcome hardship in order to connect. We take the edge off with social media. We feel like we may be connected, but it's actually a false sense of connection. Mm-hmm. And so then we go into this vicious cycle of loneliness, isolation, false connection. And then you get a feed that's telling you, you know what, the real problem is actually just the men and the patriarchy, and they're just oppressing you. And that's why you're so sad. And that's why you feel powerless. When in reality, she just doesn't have community. And so then she doesn't have a sane sounding board for her crazy ideas that she gets through her social media feed. She doesn't have someone to shout that out into the world and then give her feedback that will then kind of knock us all sane. And so then you kind of get stuck in these really dark places with no solutions, just a little validation to make you feel good about staying the same. That was really harsh.
No, but I think you said where we feel then oppressed by men, but it starts with like feeling oppressed by motherhood, because then you start kind of blaming that situation that you're in, and you're like, it's the fact that I'm a mother that's oppressing me, and I'm not able to live my life. And like, it's just a matter of fact that yes, you sacrifice many things when you become a parent. But the thing that you always need to realize is you're sacrificing things for a good cause. And it doesn't mean that you can't do those things again, or that you can't incorporate part of that into your life as a mother. But the problem is a lot of people get stuck in, like what Tikla's saying, this this world where you feel invisible and you have no community, and you blame the fact that you're a mother, maybe. And then who made you a mother? The patriarchy. They told me I had to be a mother, or they told me that motherhood was just pure joy and rainbows and sunshines, which I think we should all know by now that being a parent is obviously hard. And then, so I do think that can stem from, it's a motherhood oppressive, then the man is oppressive, and I can't do anything now because I'm married and because I'm a mother. And it all stems from,
so it's a slippery slope, and in the end you just feel like you're hoodwinked, like I've been had.
Yes.
No.
And then
this is the solution,
Yeah, you feel like you've lost your identity, and then you're like, well, who took it away from me? It was the church who told me that this was a good idea, and you're taking a very temporary state of life and extrapolating it to the rest of your life, and you feel like you'll never be yourself again. And so I think all of these things, when we boil them down to, okay, actionable ideas for husbands in supporting wives who are stuck in a place where this kind of feminist rhetoric is tasting good to them, is, I would say, help them to not be so isolated, encourage them to develop community, and I would say encourage them to go have an adventure that is something that's developing themselves. So whether that's like sign up for a dance class, or get a hiking group, or maybe travel somewhere, a solo trip somewhere, or get a new hobby, encouraging and supporting. So that's maybe counterintuitive. Like your wife's leaving the church and I'm telling you to let her have a watercoloring class, but I'm telling you it might be more connected than you realize.
So you're saying probably don't like jump on them and try and own them with logic and facts. Don't don't try and do any of that, Don't try and, because you're just going to create more tension. You're going to create more problems. You're going to just drive that wedge even deeper, because you are just going to do all the things that their algorithm is saying that you are going to do. Like she's going to try and attack you. He's scared, and he's going to try and reestablish dominance. Whereas you're saying, no, just help her get some friends, help her get through this time, and just kind of be with her, suffer with her, acknowledge, strengthen your relationship, and then help her strengthen relationship with friends. I think that's a fantastic idea. My wife actually did this. Speaking of visibility, hey, I hope she sees this, and she will. She's great. She, after having our fifth, after a year, she was like, I want to do something. I need friends. And I was like, hey, sign up for a race. Get a race going. And so she's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And so she signed up for a race, and then she just invited everyone in the Relief Society, and two sisters decided to run it with her. And they've been running for like the past 3 months, like 3 to 4 times a week for like 3 to 9 miles. And like, that's a lot of time. They've become really, really good friends. And as they've run, we've actually done more with those couples. Like they come over for games nights. We're actually talking with them a lot more. They're actually going out together and stuff like that. And so it's actually turned into a really cool thing where my wife now has more connection to the ward just because she got out of the house and was doing stuff. But I totally agree with what you're saying. Sam, you look stoic. What's on your mind?
So I don't know, man. Like, I guess from the man's perspective, I don't see how great work is. Like, I don't see the appeal to wanting to go to work, and like you have so much freedom. You're not like shackled
so you're clapping back against the idea that a lot of women say, like, hey, I was with the kids all day and I need a break as soon as you get home, and you're getting home after like putting in 8 hours at a job you don't even like, with people you can't stand, and you're coming back and you're just like, oh, hey, I'm home. And then she's like, perfect, here. And then just dumps it on you, and you're like,
really
okay.
It's just like the grass is, the age-old adage, like the grass is always greener on the other side. It's like, what is so great about going to a job where I have to like leave my kids all day, go to this work really hard, and then come home, and I'm getting praise for going to my job to provide for my family.
Like, why is that desirable?
Yeah, it's not. Like, in my mind, it's just it doesn't really compute. I don't know. Maybe that's like the logical side of it.
Well, I've always said women romanticize careers so much more than men.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
And society,
Oh,
it's almost
100%.
like society did it to us, because I even remember thinking that, because it's almost like you are defined by getting your dream job. And it's almost like way more that way for women than it is for men. Like, I feel like going through college and stuff, men were just trying to find something that would get them like a job that would provide money so they could have a family. And women were, and this isn't a bad thing, but women were always like soul searching. Like, what am I? Who am I? What is going to like define me in my career? And I mean, I 100% was that way too. And I had to like kind of realize, like, is that actually what defines me? Like, and do I have to pursue those passions or those things that, like, you know, fill me up through a career? Are there other ways I can, you know, engage in those things that I enjoy or that bring me happiness? Does it have to be the dream job? Because I was very concerned. I'm like, I need to get a master's degree because I want to be an archaeologist, because I need to do this, because that's who I am. And then I realized, okay, wait, hold on. There's no guarantee that I would even land that dream job. I could go through all of this hassle. I could go through all that school and I would do great. And I'm a great student. Like, I could do it. But would I even be happy? Like, if you put all your eggs in that basket, you can still be let down. That's just the reality of it.
100%.
And that's the reality of anybody's career path. You never know what it's going to bring you. And I would say, don't put your happiness in that. Put it in something you can build, like a family and a life with other people that you love.
Yeah, and that's kind of plays into what I'm thinking. It's like, at the end of the day, all the people that I work with are getting to their 20-year mark in the military, and they're all talking about retirement. No one's talking about, oh yeah, I can't wait for this next job that I'm going to do right after I retire. I'm so pumped. It's like, man, I need to be spending more time at home because I'm about to retire soon. And I need to like build that relationship with my family, because that's actually what is going to carry me on through the rest of my life. Whereas like my career is going to end and I'm not going to care about my career, after 20 years or so.
So they've got the little typewriter going in the background and they're singing with Dolly Parton, like, working 9 to 5. Yeah. What a way to make a living.
I guess there probably is some men that really do enjoy the work that they do. But I would, if I was a gambling man, I would say that 90% of men don't actually really enjoy what they do. Now, I will say I enjoy the people that I work with, right? And I will say my wife, when she expressed this concern to want to work, it wasn't necessarily that she wanted to like make income or whatnot. It kind of went to what Tikla and what Maddy were saying, where she just really wanted a community. She felt like she was stuck at home. And by that point, my son was already in school. So there really wasn't much to do at home. Now, me personally, I would love that because I have plenty of hobbies to keep me occupied. But I can see where it's like, I want to like develop, continue to, have conversations with adults or, have, friendly relationships with other people, and a job would kind of offer that. But
totally.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't find the appeal. I don't find working very appealing personally.
Well, and it's interesting because there's this new segment of behavior that has just been coming out just this year. Have you heard of the trad sons? It's a big thing that's happening right now. So these are men that are in their early 20s that have started their workforce. They joined the workforce. They graduated college. They're getting high-paying jobs, and then they're giving it up, and they're going back and they're living with their parents full-time as like a live-in nanny. So they're just like a housekeeper. They're just like, so there's a whole article in the New York Post. But there's like this 20-year-old guy who is basically the housekeeper for his mom. And he's just like, he had a job that was paying like $170,000 a year in sales. And he was killing it. And he just said, it just wasn't feeding my soul. So he decided to go back and live with his mother and just like putter around the house and stuff all day. And it's fascinating because we're actually seeing a larger segment of men doing that. And I think it's that same reason of what Feminist has done to the workforce. I think we would see that same thing in church. So men are saying, I'm not needed here. I can just go. I'm going back with mom. Life was way easier back then.
Yeah.
So would you guys say that you think the romanticization of work is equivalent to the romanticization of, I'm not saying that word right, of the priesthood office? So there's like that connection there. We're seeing like So women are assuming,
Right.
which already there's some error in thinking in that way, because in a work career situation, you've got these, think milestones that you're shooting for. You've got these, raises, you can work your way up the company or things like that. You can, develop yourself in your career. Whereas callings are not that way at all. It's not a linear progression that you go through. It's very cyclical. It's very shared. It's very lift where you stand. And it's voluntold. It's not even volunteer, right? It's not something you ask for or petition for or campaign for. And so we're already comparing apples and oranges. So we're taking an already erroneous life view, feminists, romanticizing the workplace. And now we're layering that on to the priesthood structure and romanticizing that, which those don't even compute. Those aren't even the same thing. So very problematic on all fronts.
Yeah.
100%. So as we're getting close to the end here, are there any other practical, actionable tips for either husbands or wives? We have been giving a lot to the husbands in this episode of like, hey, get your wife some friends, make sure that you appreciate her. Is there anything on the other side that the wife can do in that scenario to, I guess, work a little bit better? Because, they are married after all. You would assume that they want to be with each other. Is there anything that the wife could do to help bridge that gap?
I would just say, be aware of the narratives that are telling you that men are your enemy and that men inherently want to oppress you, or men inherently want to take away your ability to, like Josie said, make final decisions. I'm like, where is she getting that? Who is the man in my life that is overriding all of my decisions? I'm like, that's not my husband. Okay. And so I just think narratives, just be aware that the things that are trying to villainize the men in your life it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily academic or research based. It's ideological. It's very much something that is being pushed by a specific type of agenda. And it doesn't mean that it's actually happening to you.
Absolutely. And I would also say, if you got to take some responsibility and accountability for what you want to make happen in your life. So if you are waiting around to be empowered by the men in your life, then you are waiting around for a man to tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you never hear about empowered men because they just decide to be powerful. And so if you are being fed a lie that you need to wait for men to give you permission to do what you want to do with your life, you're actually avoiding accountability for your own life and being told that you're somehow special and a victim for doing so. When in reality, you have all power to make of your life what you can. And so take responsibility for your life and get assertive and go for it. You don't need to wait for someone to give you permission to do so. And so if you're feeling like you have to wait for men to empower you, then you're actually the one waiting for men to tell you what to do.
What a hard-hitting truth right there. So that's great, yeah. And so what they can do is they can find a friend and they can go to an assertiveness training course together, maybe at their local library or something like that. That's fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, we are getting close to time, so hopefully Josie had a great time on her vacation far away.
Josie's on a vacation far away.
And hopefully we
Can
helped
I
her
give
finalize
one more
unpacking all of
thought?
that. Go ahead.
Just one more, just because it's on my heart. And it's for the men listening, because I think that's probably most of the audiences. And if you're in this situation, I would say another tip I have is to lead your family spiritually. And I think that's something you guys talk a lot about on this channel. And I'm so grateful. You do such a good job of supporting each other in becoming strong spiritual leaders in your home. But I would say there is no woman who does not want to hear her husband pray for her and thank God for her. And so inviting your wife to pray with you. So even if she doesn't want to pray, but pray for her and thank God for her every night, and studying something wholesome together. Maybe she doesn't want to study the scriptures anymore, but maybe she would be willing to study something else wise. And you could even let her decide what wisdom tradition do you want to study together before we go to bed or when we wake up. So taking that time to lead out and making sure that that kind of study and prayer is happening in whatever form you both can agree on will be incredibly powerful. And it doesn't have to look like it used to, or like it, the perfect way to do it with Book of Mormon study and prayers. It can be whatever version you both agree on that you can come together and do, and it will be powerful and truthful and good for your marriage. And if you can do that as the man, it's going to have a big impact, in my humble opinion.
100%. Sam, a little wry smile out of you. What's going on?
No, I love it. Yeah, I think I've been slacking a little bit on that, so that kind of hit a little close to home.
Oof.
As far as like my suggestions, I mean, only thing I can say is if you guys are both on Instagram, Instagram has a blend option where you guys can share your reels together. You guys can combine your algorithms. And there is an option on there when you scroll, if there's something that you don't like on the blend, you can click the little 3 dots and say not interested. Don't show me content from this person anymore. And it kind of removes it from the blend. So what I've noticed is my wife likes to send a lot of reels to me, and it's kind of nice. Like it's a little subtle way to communicate when she's at work and she has a couple of minutes. She'll like send me a reel or whatever that's funny, and it gives us a minute to talk about it when we get home and laugh about it together. Just find ways that you can combine. Like if she's stuck on Instagram or social media, find a way to kind of get yourself in there with her, and then maybe once again kind of like peel her out of that and maybe into something a little bit more wholesome together as a couple.
For sure. And on the husband side, I don't think it would be too unreasonable to expect your wife to treat you nicely and to expect her to be kind, to say loving words, pray for you, baby, too. That would be great as well. I think that's great. Christmas time is coming up. Here's for the wives. Watch A Wonderful Life together, right? Like suicide among men, especially ages 25 to 44, is huge. It's a rampant problem. And so just make sure that you watch that, and then make sure that if you are in these algorithms and you think things are a fight, just watch that. And just maybe do a mental exercise. Imagine your life without your husband right now, and then maybe just start appreciating him as he appreciates you, and you work together on this and just start seeing him for the impact that he has on your life, is what I would say. And that's what I've seen, because a lot of these guys, they're showing up, that I've seen in the Discord, they're showing up, they're putting in the work, they're trying to make it all happen. And so I would say just make sure it goes both ways for men and women. But I totally appreciate you guys coming on, and hopefully there are some tips and tricks that both men and women can take from this, and hopefully we have finally unpacked all of Josie's boxes and helped her unpack it all. Until next time, we've got Maddy Packer from the Shore Foundation. Be sure to check her out on Instagram. We got Tikla Fife at Women of Word Radio. And do you want to plug are you on Instagram as well?
I'm not. Well, I mean, I have an empty Instagram account. You're welcome to follow it. There's nothing there yet.
Okay.
Maybe someday I'll get brave. For now, just Women of Word Radio.
Okay, cool. And then we got Sam St. Lauren at Through the Mist on YouTube. Be sure to check him out and subscribe. I'm Hayden Holm, and this is Salty Saints. We'll see ya.